Shut up and sit down.
Welcome to the Health and Wealth Podcast with your hosts, Tim and Carter.
What's trending, Enrichers? Carter Wilcoxon, founder of CSI Financial Group here, with my co-host and former wealth advisor, Tim James, founder of
ChemicalFreeBody.com and your new health advisor. This is the show where we reveal the connection between physical and financial abundance.
Hey, welcome back, Enrichers. Carter Wilcoxon here. We are ecstatic and pleased today to be able to bring to you our guest, who is our very first female CFP, and we will be bringing her in just a second. But before we go there, let me bring on my Mr. Chemical Free Body co-host himself, Tim James. Tim, how are you, my man?
Hey, doing awesome. Doing awesome. I just actually got done doing another podcast of my show, and with a naturopathic doctor up in Canada. We had a good chat, and we were just talking about raising consciousness and improving health, and I just really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. It was the Health Ignited podcast. So check it out with Doctors Nick and Sonia Jensen. That's it.
Yeah.
She just released a new book. So
were you a guest on that podcast? Is that what you're saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Awesome. That's fantastic. Well,
and my microphone worked.
There you go. I guess it just depends on which one of the systems that are available out there that's going to integrate with it properly.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, that's for sure.
It happens. Well, speaking of guests, I want to go ahead and welcome our guest coming in from South Carolina, Amanda Bateman, CFP. But we won't let that CFP define her. Amanda Bateman's got a great story, and she is here to share it with all of our enrichers. Amanda, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Carter. Thanks for having me tonight.
Absolutely, our pleasure. And so we're just coming off of Thanksgiving for everybody. So Amanda, how was your Thanksgiving?
It was pretty nice. Yeah, got to go up to the mountains of North Carolina, not far from us, a couple of hours. Spent some time with family, eat way too much turkey, took a hike, so tried to walk it off. It's pretty nice.
Nice. That's awesome. Now, one of the things that I learned pre-show, which my co-host is just getting ready to learn, is that Amanda is also expecting. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, pretty pumped.
Wow, that I want to change the whole direction for the third segment now. You can ask me anything about, I have so much data on how to help people get pregnant, but you're already there. So now let's make sure
we figured that out pretty fast.
That's awesome.
Well, you know what would be really cool, Tim, is remember when we had Diana Caprices on, and she used to be a doula, and I think it might have been episode number 20, 19, 20, something like that. I'll make sure that I share that with you, but I think that would be an interesting podcast for you to listen to as well.
Oh yeah, those doulas are amazing people.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah, that would I think fantastic. So anyway, I wanted to make sure that the enrichers got a chance to understand that some true blessings are on the show with Amanda getting ready to bring. I say getting ready. I mean, I guess you're in the first trimester, but early on. But whenever this launches, you probably you'll be in your second trimester by the time we launch.
Yeah, I'm taking it a day at a time, but it'll be here before we know it. So.
Yeah, that is awesome. And again, congratulations. Great deal. So, hey, listen up, enrichers. I am so pumped about being able to share Amanda's story. I've learned a little bit about her, along the way. And, she has a very unique niche industry that her company that she works for. And I know you want to, give praise to your founders and everything, and we'll get a chance to do that. And it is very, very unique. But before we go there, in the first segment, what we want to talk about is, how did you get into being a CFP? Because as we also talked about in pre-show, only 23%, I'm going off of memory here, only 23% of female advisors are CFPs. Is that what I remember?
Close. Only 23% of CFPs are women.
Oh.
Yep. I don't know the statistics for how many advisors are actually CFPs. Financial advisors, as you know, covers a wide range of people doing different things. So not all financial advisors are created equally.
Well, that's for sure. Some of you are missing a rib even, right? So anyway, that's a little bada boom boom. Where's your music at, Tim?
Oh yeah, hold on. I gotta hold on. I actually have that.
There we go. Perfect.
I'm ready now. Sorry.
Yeah, no, all good. Trust me, that was totally impromptu. I didn't know I was even going to do that myself. But Amanda, so it's interesting. The journey of a financial advisor, the journey of a CFP. I know many of an advisor who have attempted to become CFPs and do not do that. So obviously, you are wicked smart as well. So with all that being said, obviously you're fairly young when it comes to advisory and things of that nature, but let's go back, share with the enrichers, how did you really start your journey and your path to having a heart for helping people with their finances? Like, is that something that, from your family? Is it something that, you had a mentor as you were growing up or whatever, but not to put words in your mouth, but, share on how that journey really started.
Yeah. So I did not grow up thinking I'm going to be a financial advisor. I definitely didn't think I would be a financial advisor for dentists, of all things. That is quite the niche. But what happened is I was a first-generation college graduate. I graduated summa cum laude from Liberty University in 2010. I got out, started adding up my student loans, and thought, oh, wow, I am never going to pay this off. I'm never going to see this much money. And I was really distraught, honestly. I thought, I had gotten through college. I was really proud of that. But being the first generation college graduate, didn't have the mentorship or support from family or someone who had been through the process before me. So I started just getting interested in financial planning from a personal side for myself. And really, it started with basic budgeting, learning how to tell my money what to do instead of just scrambling at the end of every month. And that led to just some Google searches. Honestly, I ended up finding this thing called a certified financial planner certification. I saw all the different areas of financial planning that covered, and I thought, that's really important information for me to know. I should probably pursue this. So at the time, I was working in property and casualty insurance, started to pursue my CFP on my own. Took me a number of years, but finally in 2018, I did sit for the exam for the first time and pass it. So it was a really natural occurrence. It just came to me as a series of what I call unfortunate events, which became pretty fortunate ones because now I get to help people with money every day and I really enjoy it. So I consider myself lucky.
Wow. So there was nothing sort of as you were growing up that attracted you to anything like this. It wasn't like you were like in 7th grade and you met somebody and you're like, oh, money, that could be interesting. Or do you think that that's a little bit of maybe why females are so lacking in this industry? Because it's just not something that they're attracted to unless things like happen to you where you're like, I just have to take the bull by the horns and learn about my own finances.
Yeah, I think it's very much a male dominated industry. I had a friend in high school whose dad was a financial advisor. He actually helped me file my first taxes ever when I was, I think, 16. I actually found a copy of those recently, and when I was shredding some old papers, I thought, man, I got to get rid of all this paper. But so I knew of financial advisors. I knew it was a thing, but I thought I was going to be a teacher. I had a teaching scholarship at a state school in North Carolina. So that's what I was going to do. Then I did a semester of that and said, no, this is not for me. I'm not going to teach. That I thought I was going to do American Sign Language, but I was going to have to do a whole extra year of college. And that was just too much for me to do. So I didn't do it, which now is absurd because I've done so much school and licensing and everything after getting my degree. But yeah, I mean, I really did stumble upon this career. As far as why women aren't attracted, I think they're attracted to more traditionally female roles like teaching, like I was interested in. And I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. I think finding something that you really enjoy doing and that you can, make a living and make a connection with people in your life and have a supportive community. I think those are the more important things. But I do enjoy being in a male-dominated industry. Really, we stand out as women in our industry, and sometimes that can be a struggle. It wasn't an easy road for me to get to where I am today, for sure. But in the long run, it's definitely worth it. And I love being able to help other people who are pursuing their CFPs now or interested in breaking into financial services too.
Yeah. So was there anything, do you think, that helped you prepare for, obviously being a teacher and you were going down that road, that had to have prepared you a little bit, but I'm just wondering, your formative years, was there anything you think that, helped you, maybe playing sports and again, I'm not sure if you play any type of sports. I know that you mentioned your daughter's in gymnastics and stuff. So I have a sneaky suspicion apple doesn't fall far from the tree. So do you think there's anything like that that helped you to be a successful at what you're doing today?
Possibly. I've been told my whole life that I'm a natural leader, so I'm not surprised to be in a career where I'm helping to, in a way, lead people in their financial well-being. I did sports growing up. I did all of those sorts of things. But if we're getting to the heart of what I think attracted me to financial planning, just in general, other than that true, I had that true moment of, oh my gosh, what am I going to do here? Is I have a really strong desire to be very independent and to not depend on other people. And so one way to do that is to have your financial life in order. So I started working full-time when I was still in college. I started working part-time when I was still in high school. So from the time I could work, I did work. And the reason I did that is because it allowed me to have my own independence and to depend less on other people, financially speaking. So I think there can be different things that lead people down that path. For me, like I mentioned, first generation college graduate, finances were not very stable in my family growing up. So, my family was fine. We were middle class. We had food on the table, all those sorts of things, but it wasn't always certain how things were going to be. And I remember my parents changing jobs. And when I was in high school, there was a layoff in my family, which had a big impact. I had been told my college would be paid for, and it ended up not being paid for. So as you can see, those events led to that moment of adding up those student loans. But what I like about financial planning is that with a little bit of forethought and a little bit of, well, as you say, planning, that's the whole word, right, you can really change your whole life with not a lot of money. And I think that is a really important thing for people to realize. If you don't have to make six figures, you don't have to make, 4 times that as a dentist to be well off and to be able to be financially independent and take care of yourself. It's all about the behaviors that you have and putting those systems in place. And I get to help people figure out what it is they want to achieve financially. And then I'm just here to keep them accountable to what they decided they want to do. So I'm not telling them what they have to do or what they should do or the life that they should want to live. I'm finding out, what is it that you want from your life? What do you want to do with this money? What does an ideal work week look like for you? Or what does making work optional look like? And then I get to hold them accountable to what they said they wanted. And as things change, we'll change our plan. But if things aren't changing, I'm going to keep reminding you of what you wanted to do and make sure that you can accomplish that.
Cool. Well, I know that in the second segment, we're going to get a little bit deeper into, the type of, planning and what your clients look like and everything. But I want to go back and, you mentioned that you played sports, and I played sports my whole life growing up, playing baseball. I know Tim James, he's an athlete. He played sports and everything. And I just have this sneaking suspicion that the theme that I've noticed is that people who play sports growing up tend to be those types of, leaders and entrepreneurs and stuff like that. So what kind of sports did you play growing up, Amanda?
I really wish I could say I didn't play sports just so I could mess with you, but I did. Of course I did. I did softball. I did basketball, and I did cheerleading, which is a sport.
Yes.
Just to be clear,
Yep.
cheerleading is a sport.
Well, anything you can break something in is a sport.
Well, I don't know. I could break something walking up and down my stairs, which I was not far off from the other week. So I might not be that generous, but
That's called
yeah.
power walking.
Yeah. So basketball is probably my favorite, although I didn't go very far with it, but did enjoy it.
And then, so when it comes to basketball, I'm assuming you were a 2 guard or a point guard.
I couldn't even tell you anymore. It was so long ago. And I'm super short. I'm 5'2", so.
She was definitely a center.
Yes. Oh, that sounds right. I'm terrible. I've lost it all.
Who's
probably like she's like Charles Barkley.
Yeah, totally.
She plays a foot taller.
Yeah, Mutombo. Totally right. That's funny. So then, so basketball was your favorite. Didn't necessarily take it as far, but now softball, which is interesting, near and dear to my heart. My wife, who played softball at Baylor University, I always like to give her a shout out every chance I get on this podcast, because she helped me to become the man I am today. So I want to give her all the props there. But she played softball, and that was for her, a bit of a leadership role, and it took her to places that she probably never expected, because she did go pretty far with it. So do you remember much about your softball career, if you will, growing up?
Yeah, I started with t-ball, so it's probably what I spent the most time doing from my youngest years. But I ended in middle school. I didn't play in high school. I do remember I was a cheerleader and a softball player in middle school. This must have been probably 7th grade. And my coach had told me I could do both. I think it was the cheerleading coach had said, yeah, you can do softball and cheerleading. And then there was like a conflict with a game I was supposed to be at with softball. I think it was like basketball. I don't remember what it was. But she was like, if you don't come, you're not on the squad anymore. And I was like, okay, I'm going to the softball thing. Bye. So I really liked softball. It was a lot of fun. We had these like custom helmets that somebody had painted for us. We were the Tigers. Like, I just remember stuff like that. It was a fun thing. My mom came to all my games. My brother would come. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I know that I know we're probably coming up, and I don't have the timer on this thing like my.
We're ready.
Is it close, Tim James? Are we coming up to that break?
Yeah, we're ready, buddy.
Okay, all right. Well, I'll let you take us out to break, and Amanda, thank you for sharing some of your backstory there. Appreciate that.
I'll try to do my best. Okay, and Richards, we're going to break. See you in a little bit.
Estate planning. What does that even mean? When the inevitable happens for everyone on this planet, your estate plan kicks into action. But first, let's start with what an estate is. An estate is simply everything you own. Now, here's the issue and what needs to be understood when this event occurs. You only have 2 choices on this plan. Number 1, either you plan how your estate gets handed out and distributed to those you leave behind. Or number 2, your state decides who gets everything you own. For the first time ever, you can now take complete and total control of this plan that you've been deprived of for most of your life and generations before you. You can get personalized assistance along the way with a team of specialists whose job it is to make sure you have true peace of mind. It's important to understand that estate planning is a journey, and rest assured that our team will be available to you all along the way and at every step. Welcome to eState Plan, home of the last estate plan you'll ever need. To learn more, make sure to reach out to your local advisor licensed with us or go to our website for more information.
What's up, Enrichers? Tim James here, back with my co-host Carter Wilcoxon. Today in the house, Amanda Bateman, CFP, all the way from South Carolina. gracing us with her presence. And yes, she is a glowing human being, not just because she's pregnant, but because she's just awesome. So, hey, Amanda, one thing I noticed when I was I was a financial advisor, I ran into like our advisors groups and stuff like that. They were really wanting women advisors. There was there was a bunch of women out there that had just had bad experiences with men in general in their lives, and they were jaded, and they would just step over themselves if they could find a woman to work with. And I think it's kind of like that in any industry, that probably 95% of the people, you wouldn't want you to help them or you wouldn't want them to help you in whatever you need. Right. So, a lot's changed. It's been quite a few years since I've done that, but you guys have gave some numbers. You said 23% are CFPs. I would imagine that's going up a little bit more. More and more women are coming into the practice, which is awesome. But I think something that's just like, there's certain professions and jobs that lean themselves to certain things, like, nurses as an example, right? More nurses are women. There are men nurses. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's generally people that want to be a nurse are women. So I think that's probably the case. I don't know if that'll ever be, will there be more women advisors than men? I don't know. I don't really care, but I'm just glad that you're doing what you're doing, because I know there's a huge, there's a big market that's underserved out there. There's a bunch of women that have money or whatever. Maybe their husband died, or, and they're not getting help. They're really not getting help, and they could be getting hurt because they're either just their money sitting in the bank earning nothing, literally, or they might be getting taken advantage of by somebody that just isn't cool. So what's your thought process on that?
Yeah, I've definitely seen that. Before my current firm, I worked for Vanguard for several years, and definitely worked with what we refer to as the silent spouse, which 9 times out of 10 is going to be the wife. So I walked with many women through the process of their husbands passing away, and them having to take over financial, not just planning, but just day-to-day finances that their husband had been responsible for. So it's definitely something that we're seeing, and we'll continue to see. Women have a lot of unique things related to their financial lives that men don't necessarily face. And so having someone who has experienced that, or some of those things personally, is really helpful. One of those things, clearly, we've already talked about, is motherhood. Mm-hmm. Having to be out of work for postpartum time with the baby. Usually women are doing that a few times. We forget how terrible it is, and so we go back and we do it again. And even in my niche, I work specifically with dentists, which I know we'll get more into. But our female dentists have other things on their plate that our male dentists generally don't have to worry about. And you talked about this shift in our industry. In the almost 4 years that I've been a CFP, I haven't seen a shift in that statistic of 23% of CFPs being women. Something I have seen in the dental industry is there is now a shift in dental graduates shifting to a majority of women. And that's the first time that's happened in history. We're now at about 58% of dental graduates are female. And traditionally, it's been a male-dominated industry as well. And so our firm saw that trend and thought it was important to bring a female advisor onto our team specifically. We would love to expand and bring more advisors on in the future as well. But it's been really great. A lot of my clients are female, not all of them, but when I'm working with my male clients, I do make it a point as well to bring their spouses in, to make sure that they feel comfortable. And I've done that in every company that I've worked in, because like you're saying, Tim, a lot of times the women just aren't comfortable talking about these things. And so you've probably heard the term, Dave Ramsey, I think, has coined it, having the heart of a teacher. There are a lot of things I don't agree with Dave Ramsey on, but having the heart of a teacher is one of them. So everything that I do with my clients, I'm leading with making sure they understand and they're comfortable with what we're doing and why. So
Cool.
Yeah,
Thank you for sharing.
no, thank you for that. That was awesome, Amanda. And it's interesting because I've been, working with advisors for 20 years, right? I mean, I consider myself an advisor to advisors, right? And it has absolutely been male dominated for sure. But it wasn't until about 5 years ago, whenever we built our entire, new business model, if you will, around estate planning as a foundational approach, where I started to really recognize how advantageous it can be when leading with estate planning if you are a female. And a lot of that is because, and the reason why, you try to engage with the women that come in and you're having these meetings, I think it just, from the perspective of a client meeting, right? You got the husband and you got the wife with the, traditionally speaking, a male advisor. I think the female advisor doesn't engage because she doesn't resonate, because there's a disconnect between life's experiences, if nothing else, right? So I quickly recognized that our business model, which is why I was so excited about you being a guest on the show, and for you to, potentially learn more about our triumvirate of planning that helps advisors grow their practice between estate, financial, and legacy planning with legacy stories, because the legacy stories component is the emotional connection that we have added to the mix that really helps to encourage much more the female component of the emotional aspect of planning, because the estate and the financial planning, that's how all the stuff gets done. But it's the emotional aspect of legacy planning and how you're going to be remembered on why we added legacy storage, which I know you probably haven't even had a chance to learn much about that additional component that we just added. But we did that for a specific reason, and it was to engage the silent spouse, as you called, the wife in a lot of these instances, to become part of the overall planning aspect around these households that our advisors work with. And I think leading from a female perspective that's incorporating that is just hugely advantageous in this marketplace. So that was my diatribe, if you will. But so let's get into a little bit about dentist advisors and that niche that you are in, because you are definitely the first that I know small business owners, that's a niche that a lot of advisors get into, but you're specifically dealing predominantly or only, I'm not sure. Share with us about that niche market that your founders, if you want to talk about your founders a little bit, their vision and everything, and how you came into the firm. Let's talk a little bit about, all of that stuff, if you don't mind.
Yeah, so Dentist Advisors was founded about 15-ish years ago. I'm not exactly sure the exact year, but about 15 years ago by Reese Harper and Ryan Isaac. And they started out because they recognized the, opportunity to help dentists with their finances. But they weren't quite sure if they were going to start with financial planning or were they going to do consulting for dentists. And something that I've learned since coming into the dental industry is there is all kinds of support for making sure a dentist is successful in their business. They ultimately landed on financial planning as their niche, and we now have partners that we work with for our doctors who need consulting help with their practices. And I am really excited to be here. When I got contacted by Dentist Advisors, I said, that's not a thing. You're not just working with dentists. That's silly. And they said, no, we really do just work with dentists. I had been working at that point with ultra high net worth clients for a couple of years. So we're talking 5 million plus as my minimum client for investments. So we're talking dentists, we're in that, lawyers, all kinds of professions, doctors, anesthesiologists, all of that. So I thought, you're really excluding a lot of people and a lot of potential clients by only working with dentists. But what I learned is I started interviewing with dentist advisors is that it really does allow us to go deep with our clients in a way that is impossible when you're working with a lot of professionals. So we're able to learn what is it like to be an associate dentist who is trying to figure out how to either start or buy into a practice, or maybe even take over a practice entirely. What is it like to be now a practice owner and maybe it's time to hire an associate? How do you make sure that you are finding the right type of person? How do you make sure that you're not giving away too much of your business? I like to imagine it a little bit like Shark Tank. You don't want to give up too much of that ownership. So we help our practice owners figure that out when the time comes. And we also work with multi-location practice owners. So people who have, we're talking just 2 locations all the way up to some of them have upwards of 5 or more locations. So if you're a dentist, if you are a specialist, if anywhere working with the mouth, we are an advisor for you. So it's been really a whirlwind learning all of the things dentist, because if you're like me, my only experience with dentists was going to the dentist, which I've been doing pretty much my whole life. Thankfully, I had a good dentist. So growing up, and I wasn't worried about working with dentists. I thought, yeah, dentists are cool people. I can do that. And now I'm doing it.
So oral surgeon, general dentistry, family dentistry, whatever it is, if they got your hands in your mouth, then that's your potential client.
That's right.
And only that, right?
Unless it's their spouse. Our clients are their spouses. I do have some spouses ask me that every now and then, like, oh, well, you will look at my stuff too? Yes. So if you're married to a dentist, you count.
Okay. All right. That's that. Well, and I was kind of sort of like you, right? Like, I'm just like, wait, aren't you limiting the scope? No pun intended there. On who you can be able to advise on. That seems like you are limiting what that is. But I love the idea of specializing in having your own niche, because no one else can really penetrate that. I mean, a lot of things that we've developed, whether that's, through Epic or CSI, was to differentiate our practice from everybody else's, because we know it inside and out in that industry as a whole. From your perspective, I'm sure that really helps to win what I call the relationship war whenever they're looking to who's going to be their advisor. Well, if I'm a dentist and this firm only works with dentists, as opposed to this person who's like runs the full gamut of, from zookeeper to, superintendent to, whatever. I think if I was a dentist, I would probably choose your guys' organization as well. So kudos.
Yeah, I mean, I get that a lot. When I'm meeting with a prospective client, we have consultations. We're not at all salesy people. So if we have any dentists listening who are interested, definitely you can hit us up at dentistadvisors.com and book a consultation. But when we're talking with our clients, a lot of what we hear from them is, we're coming to you because you only work with dentists, and we want to know what that's about and what is the real benefit there. And having been an advisor for the general audience, every type of investor throughout at some point during my career, I'm really able to help clients see the difference. There are a lot of rules of thumb. We actually just had a podcast episode. Dave Ramsey's not speaking to you as a dentist. So there are a lot of rules of thumb out there that just simply don't apply to dentists because of everything that they have on their plates, the level of income that they have the potential for. So we're really able to help them make sure they're approaching things in a way that's going to help them get ahead as much as possible. But really with that goal of making work optional. It's not about making yourself the richest person ever, like I was talking about earlier. It's really about figuring out, what do you want your life to look like, and how can we use your resources to make sure that's happening?
Yeah, that's fantastic, and that makes all the sense in the world. To me, that helping them to be able to establish, and they've got to feel like there's an entire team of people that get them. I mean, and I don't know exactly how your firm works, but just out of curiosity, are you a national firm? Hypothetically speaking, someone's listening to this podcast in Portland, Oregon, or
Tallahassee,
Florida, or wherever, can you guys, or do you, does your firm work with dentists all over, even though you might be in South Carolina and they might live in Phoenix, Arizona?
Yeah, good question. So we are a national company. I'm the only person on the East Coast, so I like to tell everybody that I'm the head of the East Coast for Dentist Advisors. But most of our advisors are based out of Salt Lake City, Utah. We have one advisor in California, and that's Ryan, our co-founder. But we work with clients all across the country, as I have done my whole career in financial planning. So yeah, we work everywhere, and especially I think the pandemic has really helped a lot with our industry too, and with our business specifically, because people are just much more comfortable with the virtual meetings than they were pre-pandemic. For our team though, we have 6 financial advisors, and of course I'm the only female advisor.
Of course.
So if anybody's looking for a specific female advisor, that's going to be me if you're working with dentist advisors. But we have a great team of advisors. So I don't discriminate, but I understand people's preferences one way or another. So.
Gotcha. Well, I was only curious, and it's interesting that you said what you just said, because my chairman of the board for Epic Services Company, he has said this countless amounts of times, and the reason why I think are on the cusp of really changing some things when it comes to how advisors help their clients, which is why, offline we should definitely have a conversation about how we can be able to strategically align on some things. But he said, Carter, what was supposed to happen in 2030 happened in 2020, right? When it comes to digital transformation and clients, being forced to get comfortable, learning FaceTime, if nothing else, just to be able to stay connected to the kids or grandkids across the country, right?
Yep.
You get on a plane, you can't go anywhere, can't meet anybody. So yeah, I mean, this is just normal, commonplace what we're doing right now. I mean, this is I know they call it Zoom fatigue or whatever, but truth be told, when it comes to business, it's really hard to have a more ideal situation than, from a growing network of advisors whose clients could be anywhere in the country. It's been pretty beneficial. Obviously, it sounds like for you guys as well as for us.
Yeah,
So.
I wouldn't have it any other way. I worked in the office for all of my career, like the rest of us, or most of us, not everyone, up until March 2020. And I would not go back to the office. Now, meeting in person, love it. Happy to do it. I was just out in Salt Lake last weekend visiting with my team and doing our holiday service project and just getting some true FaceTime together. But I love the flexibility and autonomy of the virtual work environment. And I think it's a great benefit for my clients who have busy schedules too. And they don't have the time to get in the car and drive and meet with an advisor just to talk with them. I'm very available to my clients, as are the rest of our advisors. And being able to reach someone on FaceTime or text or email, whatever works for the client works for us. And we've never had that before. So it's really great.
Yeah. And you also save a lot of miles on your car too. So everybody's going to have all these low mile cars in about 10 years. Nobody's driving anywhere, staying at home.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. So we're going to take a quick break, guys. And when we get back, we're going to flip the script and let Amanda ask me anything she wants about health. We'll be right back.
You want the absolute best for yourself, and you want it to be easy. That's why we created Green 85. It helps with detoxifying the body gently. We're proud it's chemical-free, unlike almost all other supplements you'll find. Bottom line, Green 85 will get you healthier. We look forward to hearing what Green 85 did for you.
To get this product and our other amazing products, go to chemicalfreebody.com. That's chemicalfreebody.com.
What's up, Enrichers? Tim James here. I'm back with my co-host Carter Wilcoxon. Again, in the house today, we've got Amanda Bateman, CFP from South Carolina.
That's right.
Oh my God, I got it right. For some reason, I was thinking North Carolina. I know it's not North Carolina, it's South
It's
Carolina.
because I'm from North Carolina. It's tricky.
Okay. They got me there.
Yeah.
Well, this is the moment in time in this space-time reality, Amanda, that you get to ask me any question on health. So go for it.
Well, I'm going to go the pregnancy route, and I would
Okay.
love to hear, it's not really a question, but more asking you for your tips on maintaining an active lifestyle through pregnancy. And I'll give you some background on me personally. I do go to Pilates and yoga 3 times a week. It's 2 yoga classes, 1 Pilates class. Kind of looking for some things to do on my off days when I'm at home. I do have a studio bike. So what would your thoughts be on just tips for staying active through pregnancy? Because I want to not feel terrible throughout this.
Okay. Well, one thing you just brought up, well, he just triggered something. He said, I don't want to feel terrible. So, a lot of women have a lot of issues during pregnancy, right? And the morning sicknesses and cramping and trouble sleeping and all kinds of stuff. But let me just address the first part of the question, which was like, what are some tips? So number one is like, I would say get outside as much as possible. This is where walking is really good and getting out in nature. That's going to be really good for your baby. Lately, I just shot a podcast on my podcast, the Health Hero Show, called is basically You Are Nature. Okay. We're trying to get clear here. We don't live with nature. We don't live in nature. We are nature. Okay. And just to clear that up for anybody that's not in agreement with that, what's your body mostly made of? It's water. Where does water come from? Nature. Okay. Guess what?
Nature.
When your bones, the minerals, what's your body made out of? Phosphorus, calcium, right? So when somebody, if old days you'd die, you'd lay on the ground and go back into the earth, and mice would come up and chew on your bones and they'd get some minerals there for themselves. That's what they do. When you see a deer carcass and it's gone, it's just the bones left over. There's little chew marks. Mice are chewing on those and getting it. Nature's amazing. It like recycles itself. Also, if you look at your gut microbiome or gut bacteria, and then go look at the soil microbiome or soil bacteria, many of those are exactly the same. So hopefully everybody gets it now. We are nature. So, and everything that you're feeling, Amanda, emotionally, that baby feels. They've actually had these children like hooked up to these monitors and stuff. And then where the woman and the husband actually got in a fight, and when there was a loud bang, something dropped, the baby actually jumped and arched its back in the womb. So babies actually feel your emotions. That's why, I remember the doctor's name, but he said every woman should be wearing a shirt that says baby under construction, just so everybody knows, right? You want to be around happy people that lift you up, and a supporting spouse, and it should be lots of Zen time and meditation and funny movies and happy stuff. So, getting outside and getting back to nature is really important, because you and your child, that's where you all come from. We all come from that. And walking is good. Mini trampoline is a good exercise. I also like Yin Yoga. That's a 3 to 10 minute stretching posture yoga. Have you tried that before?
No, not specifically, but I'll look into it.
Yeah, I think you'll like that one. It's really low impact. And as you're getting towards your, into your 3rd trimester and you can't move around and do as much, that's fantastic exercise. Also, I would say with caution, water exercises, but you have got to, be in an area where you can get into fresh lakes, fresh rivers. You do not want to get into a pool with chlorine. I repeat, do not. Warning, warning, warning. Ladies, do not get into a chlorine pool with your kids, and don't ever put your kids into a chlorine pool. That's toxic. It's bleach, right? So that is not good at all to do that. So try to get into those saltwater pools and that kind of stuff. Make sure there's no chlorine in there. But getting outside, hiking and walking, just some of the normal stuff, and stretching are some of the best things, I in our opinion, over here, that we believe that women should do for exercises. And of course, the water sports, when the water is as clean as possible and close to nature.
I love it.
Any other questions?
Oh gosh, I feel like I should have more. Let me go back to sleep hygiene, which is, we mentioned on the break. So I'm going to ask you about what are some good tips for sleep hygiene? Hopefully you haven't covered this in another episode, but I would love to hear
Oh, it's
your
okay.
thoughts.
It's okay. What's really good is what people that are listening are starting to see the repetitive motion, because we get asked about water a lot. We get asked about sleep, and these are, this is smart. And what about nutrition? What should I eat? Because these are basic fundamentals to health. These
Yeah.
are basically basic inputs to your system. So sleep is number 2 behind air. Because think about it. Without air, you're dead in 4 to 7 minutes. Without sleep, you die in 11 days, roughly, right? And then water's right there behind it, right? So it's air is important, sleep, and then water, and then food. You can last a couple months without eating. So if we're looking at areas of importance, sleep is in the top 3: air, sleep, and water, right? So it's really important that we're getting good sleep. And there's this thing called the circadian rhythms of life. Have you heard of that?
I have, yeah.
Yeah. So everything ebbs and flows in nature. And remember, we are nature. We're not living in it. We're not part of it, or we're not living with it. We are nature. So, and the way we've been genetically programmed before Thomas Edison for hundreds of thousands, millions of years is that the sun comes up and we wake up. And then when the sun goes down, we go to sleep. And the closer we can get to that, the healthier we're going to be, the longer we're going to live, and the more enjoyment we're going to have, because that's how our biological clock internally is supposed to work. And that's what it's set for. Right. So, but with the advent of, the light bulb and first candles and being able to stay up after dark and fire, and then the light bulb and stuff like that, we stay up later. Now there's blue screens and all this stuff. So when you have all these lights going on late, your body, your eyes are receiving these lights, and it's telling your body, it's like, stay awake, stay awake, stay awake. And it doesn't start producing melatonin. But when it gets dark out, then your body knows, it's very intelligent. It starts producing melatonin to help you drift into that deep, restive, restorative sleep. And that's the key. We want to get into a deep sleep. There's actually a national crisis on our hands right now. It's called shallow sleep syndrome. Many people are sleeping 7, 8, 9 hours, but they're not getting into that deep, restive, restorative sleep. And a lot of it's because they're eating too late, tremendous amounts of stress, blue lights, laptops, iPhones, computer screens, all that stuff, electromagnetic stress from EMFs, from 5G and smart meters. This is a huge one. This is something I could really, I think you would take it and run with it. It's really important. Is the stuff that you can't see does hurt you. 5G, those smart meters outside of your house, as an example, 2.4 gigahertz. Guess what else is 2.4 gigahertz? Microwave ovens. And they're on the outside of every house. And a lot of people actually have their bedrooms sometimes close to those smart meters. But even if not, it's on the other side of the garage. It's still too close. And then the neighbors have them and stuff. So what you can do is you can call your local, like here, it's Portland General Electric in Portland, Oregon, and have them come remove it. If you have one of those, actually, I call them kill meters, kill boxes. They're not smart at all. They just save them from coming out and reading the little things, but they're blasting you with electromagnetic, their frequency, right? So EMFs. So what you want to do is just get harmonizers. And I've got a gal that came onto my podcast, Dr. Elizabeth Plords. She was extremely sensitive to EMF. So if she even came close to you in your iPhone, it was like somebody was stabbing her with a knife. I mean, she felt it. And there's a lot of people that are very sensitive to it more than others, but we're all sensitive to it. Just some of us at different levels. Even if you don't necessarily feel it, it still is affecting you because we're very tolerable. And we've seen this every single time there's a rollout, 2G, 3G, 4G, 5G. There's a tremendous amount of sickness and deaths and stuff like that that happens in the hospitals, and it gets blamed on, flus and other type of things. But so these things are really important. Also, baby monitors are scary. Those things are blasting the kids too. So I know a lot of parents have them to keep safe in the child, but it's sitting there right next to them, resonating and zapping the child. So there's blankets and stuff that you can get. Also, switching gears here, grounding pads. Like you and your husband, do you guys ground? Do you have grounding mats and pads?
I was just talking with my mom about this because she has some health issues, and I was telling her she should look. I don't have one myself, but I was really recommending my mom with her health issues to have one.
Yeah, it'll help you sleep through pregnancy and after pregnancy, and it's definitely, you want your kids to do it. And again, you can look into nature. If you're a human being and you've lost your instincts, go ahead and put a grounding pad down on the ground and see what happens. Cats and dogs will go start laying on them. right? And it's because they pick up the frequency. They pick it up. So it's really simple. There's the earth puts off a frequency. That's why you hold up a compass anywhere you go and the needle moves. What's moving the needle? Well, there's energy there. And that earth is just, we're just bathed in these things when our bare skin's in contact with it. The second we remove contact from the earth, because remember, that's what we're from. That's the mothership. Inflammation begins.
Yep.
And then that's the precursor to all disease. So as soon as you touch your bare feet, barefoot and pregnant, that's where like that came from. Boom, the inflammation starts dropping down. So outside of the house and the residential and commercial buildings are iron rods driven down. That's the third prong. It's the foundation to the electrical grid in the house or the commercial building. And that's what you plug in these pads or mats or sheets that have silver threads in them that can bring that frequency through that third prong into the threads and into these mats. You sleep on it. And I have them right here. Like this is a grounding pad right here. And I've got one down below me. So I'm stepping on it and I'm grounded while I work and I'm grounded while I sleep. So most of the time when I'm in the house, I'm grounding because I know it reduces inflammation on a cellular level and charging my cells and giving me energy. And it's a disease preventative measure as well. And it's passive. I don't have to really think about it. That is a very powerful tool. And we do things like this over here in our coaching program. We teach people these things. We get them to implement them one by one, stack them. And then eventually, they boost their immune system up and, they start feeling better. They get their energy back. They get their life back. And then, the weight loss and all the other stuff people are looking for. But, sleep hacks. I gave you a couple good ones. Grounding mats, crack your window at night. I would really strongly suggest that you guys really look and your mom too, especially if she's in the conquest of disease or something, is the air quality, making sure that the windows are cracked. Again, all these new homes that are being built that are energy efficient, they are like toxic coffins because for 4.5 years after you paint a room, the paint is off gassing these toxic chemicals. The floor, the carpet is off gassing formaldehyde. The pergo floors, those ones that laminate floors, they're off gassing chemicals directly linked to autism in children. And kids are crawling around on those deals, right? So we have to get back to natural woods, natural stone, and if you really want carpet, I would say go with some type of a wool or something like that. But carpets get dirty and nasty. Like if you ever pull up carpet, you'll never buy it again. They're pretty. I mean, it's really comfortable to walk on, but just get a rug because at least a rug you can take it outside and beat it and let the sun hit it and let the UV rays, do their job and sterilize things. Or you could wash it, run it through a washing machine or something like that and then dry it. But those are a couple tips. Also, I think infrared saunas would be really good. That really helps people sleep. And you can also right before bed just rinse off in the shower. Take a hot bath is another good thing, or just rinse off in the shower really quick. And then just that water going over your body really quick will help you calm down and help you sleep better.
While you were talking, I thought of another question, which
Sure.
may be off the topic of your normal, your normal topics. How do you plan to be buried?
Well, I would prefer not to be buried at all. I'd rather just be tossed out on the ground and leave me alone because I would like to be natural. So I'm going to try to.
My thought. I've told my husband, like, I do not want any chemicals. I want you to build a pine box, which I understand is a lot to ask my husband to do when I'm dead, but he knows this. He's got plenty of warning. So he knows I don't want any of the normal things to preserve me for the funeral home. Like, if you want to see me, you got to see me quick. Get your grieving process started, and then I want to be in the ground and just wood. That's all I want.
Yeah. Well, for me, because we have a lot of ideas around this and so death in our society and stuff in a lot of places is, it's looked at, it's feared, and we're in fear mode because I don't think people really are tapped in, tuned in, and turned on to their spiritual path. I know I wasn't. And to understand that, like, how could you one day just like you're born and poof, where did you come from, right? Even Bruce Lipton said, like, he's a 50-year cell biologist researcher, totally didn't believe in religion, none of that stuff, God, none of it. He's totally atheist. And then he looked at the cells and he saw that there was receptors on the cells and that they were getting frequencies from somewhere. And he's like, wait a minute. And he went from one day not believing in God to instantly being like, oh yeah, there's a God, because we're like TVs. We have like antennas. We're like a radio station, right? So the signal comes in. Like, where do these thoughts and ideas come from, right? Where the excitement and joy, where does it come from? It's like, and to think that you die, you always exist. You can't, you're just a free flow of energy. And we just happen to be in this body right now doing this thing. And I don't know what's going to happen when I die, but I know that we are eternal. I know that. I don't know exactly how it all works. I'm still working on that part, but, I don't want a box. I don't want anything. I just like throw me on the top of the dirt and, get the mice need their calcium in the winter. So let them chew on my bones. I'm off doing something else, right? This is just minerals and water and whatever else, it's just a suit.
Not at all what I expected we would cover today, but I love it.
Yeah. What's funny is that's not what I was expecting at all either, but it is interesting. And Amanda, I got to be honest with you, I'm glad that you brought that up. And I can understand why you were curious because of, Tim's take on sleeping and being, we are nature, right? So I had no idea that you had predetermined. You're like, hey, I don't put any of that formaldehyde or anything in my body.
Yeah.
Just leave me, put me in a wood box, bury me 2 feet under, 6 feet under, or whatever, and just, you're done. I'm out.
Amanda, do you listen to country music at all?
How could you tell?
You know who Joe Diffie is?
Yeah.
So there's a song called I think it's called Prop Me Up Prop Me Up beside the jukebox if I die. I don't want to go to heaven, but I don't want to go tonight.
Yeah, that's
fill my
good.
boots up with sand. Put a stiff drink in my
hand. Yep.
Prop me up beside the jukebox if I die. That's a good one.
I like it. I don't want to be propped up next to the jukebox, though. That's
just
for sure.
Box. I got it. Pine box, dirt, go.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's all you need. I told Carter in our pre-meeting, I have a knack for bringing up somewhat uncomfortable conversations with people. This might be one of them. So hopefully your listeners
Not
don't
at all.
mind.
I'm excited.
But yeah, I like talking about that stuff.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, we really appreciate you coming on today and sharing and being a good guest. And I wish you well in your practice. And I know you're going to do good. It's a really good niche industry. There's a lot of blue ocean there. So that's awesome. And I know, the banks are stepping over themselves to give dentists loans. So they have a good cash flow business. So you can really be able to help them. And they're fun because they're easy to help. Right.
Yeah.
So anyway, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, hey, Enrichers, we want to thank you again for joining us today for another episode of the Health and Wealth Podcast. And if you want to be able to see all of the previous guests on the Health and Wealth Podcast, you can go to our website at www.thehealthandwealthpodcastshow.com for all of our previous episodes. Also, make sure to like, share, and subscribe on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify. For my fantastic co-host, esteemed Mr. Chemical-Free Body himself, Tim James, and our wonderful guest today, Amanda Bateman, CFP of DentistAdvisors.com. And of course, you will be able to see how to be able to get in contact with her as well in the show notes. I'm Carter Wilcoxon, CEO and founder of CSI Financial Group and Epic Services Company. Thank you all again for joining us for another show, Enrichers. And Amanda, thank you from me and Tim ourselves for you coming on and sharing your backstory and your journey through becoming a CFP.
My pleasure. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you next time on the Health and Wealth Podcast Show. Hey, Enrichers. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Health and Wealth Podcast. I'm your host, Carter Wilcoxon.
And I'm your host, Tim James. And by God, we are committed to helping you guys have fat wallets, flat bellies. So tune in again for another episode and make sure to like, share, and drink a lot of water.
Or beer.
You have just listened to the Health and Wealth Podcast with Carter and Tim.